you'll just bear with us. A couple of brief things before we bring forward this, this dynamic panel. The first is, if you recall, for those, how many of you were here last year at the first retreat? Oh, yeah. That's the first time. One of the things that happened last year on the spot was we had one of our colleagues who had really offered theirself to a unique position in that of the Franklin County prosecutor. And we knew it would be an uphill battle, and we knew that she had opposition, and so this community, along with so many others from our community, joined together, and we fought all last year to make it a reality. And so please just stand and be recognized, the new Franklin County prosecutor, Ms. Shayla Favor. She has a big job ahead of her. We've been talking, and her transition team is meeting, and there's so much work to be done in that office, but we know she is up to the challenge, and she's already hit the ground running. So congratulations again, Shayla, for all you will do for this community and for offering yourself to service. We appreciate you. Absolutely. And I was just informed from the 2024 class, I understand that, Kelly Davis, where are you? I understand, oh, there you are. Kelly will be sworn in as the president of the Worthington School Board on Monday. Very good. A 2024 graduate of the Academy, just outstanding. Let me also, there's a few more of you in the room. All of our elected officials at any role, if you would please stay. I know there's a couple others in the room. Shaq is here. Gulfport Madison School Board, Jamil is here. Very good. All of our elected officials. They need your dollars, they need your support. They need us to stay engaged with them as they do the important work on behalf of community, and particularly our community. And so thank you to all of you who offer yourself for service. With that, I mentioned this a little bit at lunch, but I'm going to bring forward our founder and the person behind the challenge to talk to us about all the work we need to do to secure and continue to secure the legacy of the Academy. Please welcome our founder, Mr. Larry James.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And you'll recall, last year we were talking about Shayla's race. And I said, don't let them pick our leaders. And we need to do what we need to do to guarantee that. And, as I sat around and I listened to the various discussions today about our integrity, our principles, whether we're advocates or activists and things of that sort, the silent thing is when you can finance your own deal, you don't have to ask permission. So, on behalf of Donna and I, of our 35 years of marriage, we're going to make a challenge grant of $50,000. And we will write that check for $50,000. So you have until the end of February to get that matching $50,000 in. Because I think this is important, what we do and how we do it. And I'll tell you a little story that really put me on this path. Jerry Hammond and I went to Les Wexner and asked for support for the King Arts Complex way back in the late 80s. And Les said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll match whatever you can raise from your community. I'm gonna host a breakfast. And he held the breakfast at his house. He lived over in Bexley at the time. And we had all the black leadership, and I wrote my little check for $2,000. It was painful. And we, out of the black community, we raised $124,000. Les took out his personal check, wrote it, and handed it to me, and he said, did you learn anything?
Test. Well, y'all know when I grow up, I want to be Larry James. Everybody knows that. So, you know. All right, I want to get this conversation started. So allow me to welcome this dynamic panel to the stage. They are the founders. They are the folks who have been at the helm of the Academy for the last 20 years. Join me in welcoming Yvette McGee-Brown, Janet Jackson, and the incomparable Larry and Donna James. Please join us. Well, I've been excited about this, and hopefully they had some wine so they can cut up a little bit. Tell us what's real. How many of you remember the conversation last year with Larry and Donna? Yeah. We had to start calling this session the master class because that's what everybody said it was when we were done last year around. I guess we'll start by, thinking about this moment. 20 years ago, I don't know if, Larry, you were in the shower or driving or whatever, but you had an idea, and I believe you all had started to talk about it, and you convened a conversation. And from that conversation, over 400 leaders, who really is a who's who of Black Columbus, now call themselves Fellows of the African American Leadership Academy. All of you had a role in the early maturation of this program. I guess I would start, and Yvette, I can start with you, but in this moment, as you reflect on what the idea was then and what the reality is now, sum up how that feels and what thoughts come to mind when you think about that 20-year maturation.
Thanks, Mo. It is amazing to me when I look out over this group. I still remember that call from Larry to have dinner. And Don Vickers was with us, and he came up with this idea. And he said, you know, it can't just be 5 or 6 people that they call on every time they want a Black person. And when I look out at all of you, and I know so many of you and know your stories and have watched you advance in your careers after going through the Academy, it just fills me with joy. You know, I'm on the back end of my career, but I am so proud of you, like I'm your mother. I mean, I am just excited by what you bring to Columbus, and we need you. I mean, I was saying this to Shannon Harden earlier today, like so many of us are in positions of leadership, and yet our kids still aren't progressing. They're not graduating from high school. Our crime rate is still disproportionately impacting us. We need you so much. And Shayla knows this. We've talked about the power she has as a prosecutor to do fairness, but there's a lot of work to do. So I feel encouraged by all of you out there. I look at all of the young lawyers that I've had the chance to know and work with, and I just can't wait to see where this academy goes.
Yeah. Janet?
It's simply amazing. I remember the call. And I do believe we were at Lindy's. Am I right?
No.
That's where
Lindy's? Hanky, yeah.
Or Hanky's.
Yeah.
For that, dinner. I have known Mr. James since the fall of 1971. Well, he was my freshman coach at counselor at Wittenberg University. But when he placed the call and we met, I immediately knew as the president and CEO of United Way of Central Ohio that this was something that I needed to be engaged in, that I absolutely had to be engaged in. As he was talking about his idea, my first thought was, oh my God, I wish I had had that when I was, your age. And like Yvette said, when I look at this room, I have joy. I feel like I'm your mom, truly in many ways.
You act like
And
it.
there are many of you. What did he say?
Said you act like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's the coming to the couch
There is, yes, absolutely.
at 2865 Castlewood Road.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of you, who are out there. That is not an open invitation. 'Cause I'm not sure I can handle, many more. But I just have full joy, at this 20 incredible years.
Donna?
Well, I don't feel like your mom, so let's get that out there right there. But I have to sit in this moment because sometimes you're so busy doing, you haven't taken a moment to be. And I sort of resist when people say, look at what you created, because we don't do anything by ourselves. But there is a level of commitment we each individually have in different ways, and I own that. I am real curious to see where we take this next, because in the very early days, and even to this day, we have resisted, and appropriately so, people saying, oh, you guys should take on this project. Even the fellows coming and saying, oh, we should all get together and do this. We knew we needed to stay focused on you individually as the project, because that's where the leverage comes from, is individual growth, individual application of that growth, and individual commitment to your own personal excellence, which translates into community and family and business and any excellence you want to apply it to. So I do want us to continue down that, but I anticipate we're going to have not projects, but initiatives, commitment, but it will be organic because it will be coming from you. And it will involve people in this room, and it will involve people who are not in this room. Because what have I always said? You are not a clique, you are...
Callous.
Thank you.
Very good. Godfather?
Thank you. First of all, Moke and Bo, great job. Audra. Super. Someone might say, I had a dream, I had a vision, but you all made it a reality. How this got birthed, I was on the board of the Jefferson Center of Leadership in Columbus, Ohio. It was a leadership initiative that Don Vickers did with women and other groups, but we didn't have a black group. And I think I told this story last year. If you had put a gun to my head and said, name me 10 black lawyers under the age of 35, I could not have done that. I sit here tonight, and Luke is my now law partner. Yes. And I remember, so the idea, I had no idea where this concept was going to go. I was clueless, but I thought we needed to do something. And so us, we came together as ragtag group trying to figure it out. We didn't have any money to finance it. And I have to give credit to Les Wexner because he was there early on and gave major support. And he was upset when we no longer returned to him. But that's kind of how the evolution came. We went to Nationwide, Fifth Third, Crab Brown, and I think L Brands. And those were the early funders. And so the idea of if you came together and you trusted each other, you might like each other and you might help each other. And so irrespective of our differences, and we talked about this, about Shayla's race and what Sean and I did when we did the op-ed piece together. And the idea was there would be situations, concepts that we could come together and we could be as different as night and day, but we had a common agenda to bring something forward. And that was the magical sauce that would keep us coming back together. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever your claim to fame is, we needed a cohesive, collective power. And that's why we made the commitment to the 50,000. So we want to raise 100,000 from this match. Louis Smoot Jr. has committed 5,000 from the Smoot Company. Gail King has committed $5,000. So we are on our ways. This is the vision that was kind of murky, inconceivable, and if someone said, paint me a picture, I said, I wouldn't have painted this well. But I want to tell you, you guys have made me, guys and gals have made me breathless. Thank you.
Very good.
And Mo, if I might say to Larry and Donna, I'm in for 5,000.
There you go.
I guess I'm in too.
So when Don and I, when Don and I this morning talked about this coming here, this is what we expected. And Mo, you'll tell them how to do that thing.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. I guess that means I'm gonna have 5 on it too. All right, put me in there. We close it out. All right. So I want to go back though to 2005, and Columbus was in many ways a different place. Michael B. Coleman in his first term as mayor. Council names were names like Tavares and Ginther and Tyson, George W. Bush in the White House, Kanye West released The College Dropout, Jay-Z, the Black Album the year before that. And we saw that year a young, fiery senator from Illinois deliver a speech at the DNC all around the time that you all started to talk about the African American Leadership Academy concept. Talk to us about how you were experiencing both Columbus and Black Columbus at that time. Give us a sense of what was going on, maybe unbeknownst to many of us in the room, but what was the landscape of leadership and Black leadership at the time, now 20 years ago?
I had only been at United Way for 2 years as the president and CEO, first African American, first woman. Felt under incredible scrutiny in terms of being, in that role. Personally faced with how can I use the specific role to elevate African Americans, which had never been a part of this, United Way. So when Larry reached out, I saw it as an opportunity for me to take my role at United Way, and specifically the Key Club group, because in the beginning, 1/3 of the participants had to be Key Club members. So that gave me the opportunity to provide to a very small number of Key Club members the opportunity to be a part of this phenomenal, experience. So it was, for me, certainly a leadership challenge, being in that role, for the first time. And let me just be blunt. Being under the scrutiny of white community leaders. There's nothing like being called to the office of John Walter Wolf or to Let's Write. And those were things that I had to do in my first couple of years. So I was experiencing my own leadership growth, during that time period. And at the same time, to trying to figure out how could I use my role, how could I leverage it in this community to raise up younger African Americans.
That's good. That's good. Others of you around the landscape, what was happening? What were you seeing in terms of the landscape in both Black Columbus and the general Columbus community? Any other thoughts around it?
I think back then Columbus felt much smaller, right? There were a handful of Black leaders, right? A lot of Black people were in government. Every corporation had that one Black person who was in the C-suite. Everybody had one. And it was, we had, to your point, John Wolf, Les Wexner, John, who was the guy you worked with at Nationwide, like the bosses that were.
McPherson.
Yeah, McPherson, and they kind of ran the city. They would get together and they would make decisions about what they thought was best for the city. And I think that was one of the things that, we started to chafe under. And I know Larry and this group up here, we had those conversations about, as Larry said, they don't get to pick our leaders. And while Columbus, there were fewer of us, it felt more cohesive, I think, as in terms of Black leadership. We would get in the rooms, and I remember when Ben Espy and Michael Coleman had the primary, and I remember we had a meeting at Joyce's house. Like, this is not going to divide the community because both of them are running and want to be mayor. So I think the good and the bad of it is that now there's so many more of us in different positions throughout the city, and that I don't think any of you feel like you have to ask permission and none of us ask permission either, but I don't think you feel that there are any titans that you have to go and get approval from. There's no John Wolf anymore, and John Wolf could be pretty scary. I mean, when I first ran for office and I went to meet with him, and he looked at me and he said, "If you ever lie to me, I will bury you." And
And he meant it literally.
He meant it, yeah. I mean, I had watched him like Buck Reinhardt. He destroyed Buck Reinhardt when Buck Reinhardt had been the mayor of Columbus, and he asked Buck if he was having an affair with his budget director, and Buck said no. And when he found out, I mean, it was every day. Buck Reinhardt and Brenda were on the front page of the Columbus Dispatch. So we don't have those forces anymore. But it also means that we have to be more intentional about our leadership too, because as we become more dispersed, we have power in different places, and we have to be unafraid to use that power. And at the same time, be willing to support one another, and when we have differences, be willing to work those out in private, right? And come together and say, we may disagree on how to get there, but we all want to get to the same place.
Well, Yvette, I actually want to pick up on that because I think as we were talking in a group yesterday, I'm curious about, I imagine over the course of the 20, 30 years you all have been working together and doing things, conflicts have arisen.
Oh, yeah.
And you've been on different sides of things, both maybe politically or socially. Talk about what has stayed at the core of even your relationship, the folks on this stage and other Black leaders of your generation. Were there covenants, were there decisions, was there a guiding force? How have you stayed collective and in relationship even when you are at odds around probably a number of things over the years? What does that look like for all of you?
Well, one, I think it's having people in your circle who are willing to call you on your BS, right? Kathy Espy, God rest her soul. Joyce, now imagine this, Joyce Beatty and I were at odds in, maybe 2000, when did we open? 2005, 2006. Joyce Beatty and I were going at it, and publicly, because I was the chair of the YWCA board, and we were building the family center in her district, near her house, and she was not happy. And she was letting everybody know she was not happy, except me. And it was coming out in the paper, and we were having some beef, and it was about to get ugly. And Kathy Espy summoned us to her office. She said she was going to have lunch with us. And we got to her office. She shut the door, and she said, "We are not leaving here until y'all work this out. I am not having this. I'm not having two black women in this community going at it in the press. And we will sit here until it's done." And I thank God for Kathy, and I told her that years later because Joyce and I are close friends now. But because of our positions, and we both believed in the rightness of them, we weren't talking to each other. So the way that we have all stayed connected is you've got to have people in your circle, in your inner circle, that are unafraid to call you on your bullshit and do the hard work to make you talk it out and remember who we are as black sisters, as black people, as friends. You don't destroy relationships over that kind of thing.
Other thoughts? Can we all just get along, or has there been beef? And how have you navigated it?
I would just say that one of my concerns, and it's a concern now and it has been over the last several years, that many times we don't come together enough to discuss issues. We just haven't done it. Now, if there's a crisis, we will come together, but in terms of setting the agenda, what can we accomplish? And my peers up here might disagree, but I don't think we've done enough to come together to move it forward. And so I am hoping, from just what I'm seeing currently, that might change. But we've got to be in the room, we've got to discuss, we've got to figure out roles, what can each of us do, individually. And I'm very much in a different place. I entered 2024 saying, you are going to be retired. Don't ask me for coffee before 10 o'clock in the morning. But I am still willing to roll up my sleeves and to be a part of how do we move forward. And certainly as we look at 2025 and what might be facing as issues in our community and across the nation as African Americans.
I may be of a different mindset because I guess I grew up in the center of controversy. I was in that group that, with the SB Coleman situation, and advising Michael early on after they lost the lieutenant governor's race that Lashetka would not be running again. That was inside information because no one was going to take on Greg if he ran again. But we told Michael, you need to get out front now, because we knew if he didn't and Ben declared, Mike wouldn't challenge him. So it happened the other way. So for me personally, we're always going to have some disagreement, some dissension, some fights. I think at the end of the day, if we respect each other and we listen to each other and we try to find that common ground that we might have, then I think we'll be okay. But there are going to be times going forward, we will disagree. Yes. We may flat out fight. It's like this good marriage. As we tried to influence things politically, because I was extremely active at one time in my life, I'm probably the only non-public figure that the Dispatch wrote a complete editorial page and called me everything but a black man. And so my response to Mike Curtin, who was a real good friend of mine at the time, I wrote a note back and I said, ouch. Now Donna probably, she was angry. But I think you learn and we grow from those. I just think you try to do the best you can. We need everyone in the room. And we talked about this in the meeting earlier today with Sean and I when we did the joint editorial on Shayla's race. the FOP kicked my ass. That's one of my major clients. And what I said is, we learn to forgive, we learn to apologize, and we learn to accept when we were wrong and sometimes on the wrong side of an issue. But rest assured, that's going to happen. Luke Fedlam didn't have to interview with our office to be hired. That was a decision that was just made. And so what I'm saying to each and every one of us that's in a position, irrespective of what's happened in the past, just be effective where you are. Yeah. Be effective. If you can't be effective, get the hell out of the way or shut up. That's where, we push the button. And I know people say Larry's an arrogant SOB and all that other stuff, and that's probably true. But I've earned that right.
That's right. We're good. We're good. Well, Larry, I'll take you back to our days in the academy. One of the things you said to us early on was only amateurs stay mad.
That's very amen.
And that has played out, I think, in so many relationships in this room that, you may have to take your time, and it may be difficult, but we find a way back. And in our community, I think that's critical. So I appreciate that small but powerful piece.
Well, the thing that Kevin will say, Boyce, and our conversation when he was thinking about running for council, I said, you've lost your damn mind, and it ain't gonna happen, and it shouldn't happen. You have a better, greater future. And so that, what Yvette was saying about that good advice, and that's what we have to be, is that honest broker.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you come to that crossroad and you said, we just disagree, baby.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Yep, that's good.
And I think that will be, because it always has been, the biggest challenge. As more of us come into rooms like this and into other rooms, we're not going to always agree. But how we work through those differences without tearing each other down personally in the process, I think is critical.
That's right.
Because they will try to get in our heads and divide us.
Yes.
It happens over and over again, and we don't even realize it's happening, and we're tuning into the conversation, and sometimes the they looks just like us.
Yep. That's right.
And so just being aware of that, to know it's going to happen, how do you navigate it? And I'm glad you said that, Mo, because that's the thing I wanted to point out. Only amateurs stay mad.
Yeah.
You cannot afford, you can have disagreements, but you can't afford to stay mad. And not staying mad doesn't mean you have to be all lovey-dovey afterwards. You just have to figure out how you keep it moving. When we talk about in the academy staying in motion and staying in motion and being intentional and being clear, because we're going to make mistakes. We're going to back a horse, a leader, and they may turn out not to be who we intended. And we're just going to have to figure out how to regroup and move on. We're going to step out and try to lead, and we're going to stumble. But we have to pick ourselves up and figure out how to move on. And one of the big opportunities we have, and we talk about it quietly amongst ourselves sometimes, is my generation, our generation, who might be holding positions and holding them, trying to determine who they're going to anoint to replace them, when there's one of you out there that has already decided this is where you want to go after. This is what you want to try to do. And you wind up feeling like you're in opposition with the person who's holding the position. You just have to be strategic about how you navigate that, because it is the way of the world. Power doesn't concede to anything but power. Ask Shayla. And you can create it, you can engineer it, but you just have to be smart about it, and you don't have to leave dead bodies in the wake.
That's right.
One of the things I remember coming along with Jerry Hammond, and Jerry and I were very close. He was a very colorful, powerful president of the city council. And he said to me, I'm going to hold this meeting and I'm going to anoint you because you are that next leader. And I said, Jerry, cream rises to the top and so do turds. If I get there, I will earn that right. Do not assume you are the heir apparent because someone will take you out.
Yeah.
So do not assume that you're the heir apparent. And again, I will go back to Shayla's race. I mean, I applaud this group for stepping up, writing the checks that night, getting on board, and saying, this is our turn. And we will have that term, but it will take a collective will, because if you think you alone or a select group of you will be taken out, trust me.
Well, and so Larry, I want to, and Janet, you talked about the Titans in other communities that maybe have gone by the wayside. I will say to you that many of us in the room consider you our Titans in our community. I guess my question is, how should we navigate you all? And what I mean by that is, there's two schools of thought. There is, I want to do something. I want to go after a major position of influence. I want to go after office. I want to do something that's out of the norm. We're going to go and have the conversation. So it used to be Janet and Yvette at Lindy's, or back in the day, Larry at the Claremont or wherever it is. We would have the conversation because we felt like we needed to come out of respect. There's also a new school of thought that says to hell with what they think, right? We're a new generation. We navigate. We will chart our own path. I'm just curious of how, in your most authentic self, how do you want to be engaged as folks are doing everything we tell them? They're engineering their success. They're thinking about their future. They're going after the things they want. How do you expect us to engage with you as we make those decisions? Are you expecting to be included, or is it just let the chips fall where they may?
I will say that I do not expect anyone to come to the table. I don't want it. I mean, you lead and get out of the way. And where I am today, obviously, is a different place. This is a different generation. I don't know what your issues are. I don't know how you all interact with that. Those decisions you have to make. Now, having said that, we can write checks. We have the ability to do that. But look, if you want it, we were talking about having passion, accountability, responsibility. You want to go after it, go after it. I did not talk to Shayla before that night of a year ago. Never had the conversation with her. Don't need to have the conversation with her. There may be a time I have to come after her, depending on what she does in the job as far as cops are concerned. So I don't, if you want to come and say what your thoughts are, but I couldn't name 5 city council members. That's right. I couldn't name them.
Right.
I happen to know the county commissioners. I mean, we just don't know. So no, don't waste your time with me.
Other thoughts, Janet? Go ahead.
I take a little bit different perspective. And since, I officially retired 7 years ago, which is pretty amazing, although I've done some work, for the city. But what brings me, personally, and I don't want to call it gratitude, is that several of you have sought me out. We call it coming to the sofa. And we just have conversations about where you might be, what you're thinking, and you seek my opinion, my advice, and I feel very revered in that particular, space. I enjoy it. Whatever I have learned through my life experiences, I want to be able to put that into you. You take it as you will. You may not, if you choose not to follow the advice I give you, I'm cool with that. But it's just that you pay me, and I don't want to call it just respect, but they are amazing, rich conversations. And I feel that's a role that I now play at this point in my life.
Yeah, okay. Yvette, we got to call you or not?
I'm probably leaning more towards Larry. The reality is, to be honest, I don't know the city council people. I was saying to Shannon, some white woman stood up in a luncheon and said she was a city council person presenting a proclamation. I had no idea who she was. And so I have relationships with many of you, and I'm happy to always talk with you, but to think that somebody should come to me because they're thinking about running for a particular office, I can't even tell you what the current political environment in our city is. I'm happy to talk to you, but I first ran for office in 1992. I mean, the world has changed a lot since then. And so I'm always happy to talk, but you should make the decision about whether you're running. And if you want to come to me because you want a contribution, happy to have that conversation and to ask you why you're running and why you think I should support you. The one question you're always going to get from me, and I'm surprised how many people don't have an answer, is why are you running? Because if you're running just because you want to be an elected official, I have no interest in that. But if you're running because you want to do something in our community, I'm willing to hear you out. So I think that's probably more, and I'm not, I travel a lot. I'm with a major law firm now, so I don't even really practice rarely in Columbus. So don't waste your time with me. Once you've decided, if you want to come and make your case for why I should write you a check, feel free to do that.
Very good.
Hey, Mo, I want to put the politics, political office, that kind of thing aside, because, some people are after that and some aren't. And one of the things we hope we do in the academy is help you see how to self-advocate and how to create communities amongst yourselves in order to determine who you should come see and who you don't. Because to Yvette's point, the world is evolving. And who has insights that are relevant to today, it's changing. Some of those folks are you. Some of them are us sitting here. And if it doesn't cost you anything, go get the information, the data, but you decide what's of value and what's not. If you come to me for a point of view on something, I'm going to share it, but I'm going to be much more interested in what you think and why. Because for me, the process is about helping you process what you're going through. So that you can self-advocate, so that you can figure it out. Because there may be someone that is sitting on some information or access or a relationship I know nothing about. But through our conversation, as you talk more, we discover that's the other person you should go see. Because the whole intent of all of this was so that power and the ability to grow doesn't become isolated in pockets. You create it, you decide, and be willing to have the missteps.
One of the things I tell all the FOP folks throughout the country, you don't wake up that year and think you're going to form a relationship. We don't know most of you intimately. We haven't spent time with you. So, the reason we created this program was sustain involvement in connectivity, because this thing of mentorship doesn't happen by happenstance. So you have to have formed that relationship years before. You have earned it, work. So that's what I think most of us are going to be looking at. What have you done to prepare for this? And it has to be intentional, it has to be passionate, it has to be committed, and it has to be over a period of time. Columbus has had this succession entitlement idea. Coleman was when Mike Coleman wanted to be president of city council, he came to me to ask John Kennedy to step down. And I told John, I stepped down. When Buck wanted Jim Jackson to become chief, Buck asked me to get Dwight Joseph to resign. Those were relationships. We don't have those sort of relationships today. So it's a fallacy. But if you've known, as we've grown and we've gotten to know each other in this academy leadership, you know, no one has to ask permission. You know, you come up with a good idea, we are there. But if you haven't earned those stripes, it's happenstance.
And can I say, when I look out at all of you, you have relationships with each other. Like, there are people in this room where you should be able to count on and have those conversations with them and get their opinions and hear from your peers and get their thoughts. I mean, Donna is my go-to person when I'm thinking about something. I call her. And I've said, can you talk with me about this? And we share, and so it helps inform me as I'm going on to my next decision. You have those relationships here, and they're going to be much more valuable to you, as Larry said, than anything that I'm going to tell you, because my relationship with you may be 5 minutes old. And so I think you should develop those within your own circle. We're here if you need us. But our advice is going to be based on however long we've known you and what your thought process is that you bring to the conversation.
Larry, I want to turn the conversation toward this notion of mentorship, and Larry, you just alluded to it, and I'm going to come to you because I'll give you some insight into the brothers' conversation. The women on this panel and in our community, and I see both shaking already, have done a much better job, in our view, of seeking out, developing, and actively mentoring the black men in this room. And many of us are shaking our heads because we have that personal relationship. We've been to the couch, we've been to the table. So Larry, what's up with the black men in your generation?
Well, let me say this. The fact that this academy has a leadership, number one, this person is vice chair of the Gateway Film Center. Corey's on that. Someone from Metropolitan Housing's on that. Jack Marchbank's on that. Look, this group got extremely better the fewer people we knew. Let me say that again. This group got a lot better the fewer people we knew. Now, to the point that we've been talking about, if we know you, we've lived with you, we're going to put you in those positions. And Mo will tell you, if you sit on the Gateway board and look at what we've done, I mean, the color of that board has changed. I'll use Warren Tyler as that example when he was head of the Ohio Water Development Authority. There was the people doing business with the authority beforehand, no black people. During that period of time, at least 50% black folks. When he left, it went back to zero. So what I said in the group today, it's about effectiveness. We're not monolithic, and we judge the people about being effective. Yeah. There are those of us, and I'm going to tout my own horn, that everywhere we've gone, we've brought people along, we've grown people, and we've committed to people. I don't know what the hell's going on with the other brothers.
That was my point.
I told Coleman that. I've told Shannon Hardin that. If you're in the damn position, make some black folks rich.
There you go.
Do the Maynard Jackson, do the Atlanta, do the Chicago. That's right. So we're hopefully, we're just learning. Hopefully, we're just learning. Did I answer your question?
And Larry hired me once for something. So, I mean, that brother paid, and it was real money, no decrease in my hourly fee. So what I'm telling you is, when you have relationships, you got to make sure that you support the people who brought you to the dance.
Yeah. I want to go to...
Did I answer your question?
You did, no, and certainly that was not about you. It was really about what you said at the end, your colleagues, and you can't do it for everybody.
And here's the conversation we've said, and here's where the disagreements come. Whether you're in corporate, political, or nonprofit, if you're not enhancing black folks, that's okay, because I said that difference between Clarence Thomas and Thurgood Marshall is what it is. Understand and appreciate that. We don't have to be disrespectful to Clarence Thomas. We just don't pay him any mind. And I think when we have black folks in these positions that have been there for an extraordinary period of time, and we don't have a pot to piss in, let them atrophy away.
There you go.
We talked earlier on the panel today about black wealth, and I want to get your thoughts about the prosperity of our community. All of you have done well professionally, on boards, doing all the things, able now to write the checks as they come up.
But not the $1 million check.
But not the $1 million check, right. What are you looking at in terms of how you think about how we should be thinking about black wealth and prosperity building within the broader community? What are we missing, and what do we need? And you just alluded to some of it, Larry, I think. But what should we be thinking about from a strategy perspective to really make sure that all the boats are rising and that it's not just a few of us who get on and our community is still largely under-resourced? Are there things we're missing that we ought to be thinking
I'm going to jump on that real quick. First of all, you have to take care of your household and your family, and then your extended family, because many of us have that obligations, whether they're parents, relatives, siblings, what have you. And it's going to take you a while to build that wealth before you can start doing those things. So I don't have a good answer to that, because I don't know where people are. When I look at this academy and I say, as we did tonight, we've just raised $75,000. There should be another $75,000 in this room. And so when I look at Columbus, whether I'm thinking about the Lincoln Theater, the King Arts Complex, the Center for Healthy Family, and I could go on, and I look at that Rolodex and I say, where are we? What does that tell us?
I do think that we have to start being more strategic, right? Like, it's great that that some of us want to live our passion, and yes, there's a place for you to be in public service, to do nonprofits, to be in corporate America, but you also got to be thinking about, what are you building? What is the legacy that you want to leave? We have to have a spirit of philanthropy where we are willing to give. Because we've been blessed, we should give there's some portion of money that you can give, whether it's $100 or $100,000. You've got to get into the habit of giving. And I just had a conversation with a young woman who's going to law school not long ago, and she's like, well, I really want to work in criminal defense because I care so much about the impact on our community. And I said, I understand that. I said, but you can do, and Larry told me this, you can do well and do good. There's nothing wrong with starting out a big corporate law firm, making a couple $100,000 a year for a few years, and using that money to help support the causes that you care about. If you decide you don't like being in big law, you can always go back to doing, being your own lawyer, or going into criminal defense, or being a public defender. But look for opportunities where you can also do well for yourself and your community. We don't all have to be public defenders. There's opportunity out there for us. And if you want to raise all boats, think about where you can have the biggest impact. Is it being the person in the nonprofit, or is it the person who's contributing the money to the nonprofit because they've created wealth through whatever professional position they have? We've got to broaden our lens as Black people, and it doesn't always have to be us being the saviors. We can make money too.
That's good.
If I could follow up on that. So there was a conversation earlier about serving on public boards, and I serve on one, a local company. Most folks have never heard of it, install building, products. When I was listening to others earlier about that, I'm on this board because of a relationship, because I had a relationship with the CEO, Jeff Edwards. But one of the things that it has permitted me to do, and that's why I could raise my hand earlier to say, I'll do this for AALA, is that yes, the board, the benefits have certainly come to me and to my family, but it has permitted me to enter into the world of philanthropy the way I never thought that I could. So literally, at the beginning of every year, I decide where. And usually it comes down to entities, African American, Zora's house, for example, or my dear sister, Denise Robinson and Alva's house. And so for this year, as I start out, it's going to be AALA. But it has just put me in a position that I never thought as a public servant, because that is essentially what I was for my entire life, that I would be able to do. So we've got to be able to think about the power that we have in terms of, I don't want to think of so much as giving, but lifting up. Lifting up African American entities that bring solutions to the work in our community.
Mo, I just want to say one thing on this point. Develop a discipline for saving.
Yeah.
I think that's where it starts with us, just because that's not easy when life's coming at you and you're raising kids and, job security or careers, get shaky. But just figuring out how to grow that until you get a number in that account that then says, I need to go find a financial advisor, because this 2% interest on the savings or the 1%, that's not enough. And I don't know enough about where else to put this. So I need to call somebody and say, do you have someone you can recommend that can help me figure out how to take the next step on this $50,000, this $25,000 that I have here that's just sitting in a savings, and I'm okay with trying to figure out how to grow it. Just start doing that and asking questions of other people. Sit in those rooms or have a conversation with someone that you think is doing well and say, how did you do it? And don't be embarrassed that they're throwing words at you or approaches. I mean, feel embarrassed, but get over it. Because it's the only way to learn, because we didn't grow up in households where these were conversations and these were the norms. I mean, and home ownership is an important part of that wealth creating strategy for us to start to close the gap. I would worry more about closing the gap on where I am to where I would like to be versus where we are collectively to other people, because that gets, to me, that becomes just too debilitating. Figure out how good you can be, as Audra would say. I'm going to see how good I can be with this. Just start there.
Yeah.
But the importance, so when the Center for Healthy Families is 17 years old now?
Yes.
So the first 3 years, she decided we were going to self-finance that exploration. And the idea of teen parenting, the importance of that in our community, because if we hadn't done that, we couldn't have gotten the Center for Healthy Families off the ground. That's why it's so important. And I think the one thing that just irks the hell out of me, people that show up, but they don't write the checks. One of the things Don and I did years ago when we would go to the library function, the Columbus Museum of Art, and all the big three, in addition to the black ones, we'd have an all-black table. And I remember Diamond McPherson, CEO at Nationwide, said, why don't y'all sit at our table? Because those were the table for the top executives. And Don said, we've never been invited. And then as black folks started getting in those positions, we started seeing more black folks around in those things. So that's why it's important. And when the company don't write the check, you write your own damn check.
Yeah. I'll take 2, maybe 3 quick audience questions in just a moment, but for the panel, I want to, Larry, you talked about the editorial that was the hit piece on you, but let's turn that around. You probably all have reached the stage of maturity where you're starting to think about legacy in some way. I guess if there had to be an editorial written about your legacy, what would you want it to be? What would the headline be of what you hope your legacy has been in this community?
I was a servant leader.
I was a servant leader.
For me, that's it. I was a servant leader.
Okay. Larry said he's last. You bet, Donna?
I'm still thinking.
No, you still win.
Man, this room. I'd want the article to be about this room and these people and what they are doing and how they're moving, how they have come together to continue to move this forward. That to me is legacy, when you may have been part of the beginning, but you don't own it.
That's good.
Other people own it.
That's good.
And in order for them to own it, you have to support it, but let it go. You've got to allow it to grow, to go. Yeah,
That's good.
that would make me happy.
Good.
I think mine would be that I had an impact on Black lawyers, on helping young Black lawyers, leading with integrity and conviction, but advancing the profession.
So a couple things. In '87, when Jerry Hammond came to me and said, I want you to go over and be president of the King Arts Complex, I told him he had lost his mind. Those people were crazy. I was a young lawyer. I didn't have that kind of money. And Buck and him called me in his office and say, if you don't do this, it'll be a price to pay. It was the best ultimatum ever given. So I would say, tracking that legacy, the King Arts Complex, he was there, he made a difference. The Lincoln Theater, he was there, he made a difference. The Center for Healthy Family, he was there, he made a difference. The African American Leadership Academy, he was there, he made a difference. On the electability of certain candidates, you all may not recall, but that junior senator met with Donna in February or even before that of 2007. Anyway, Donna comes home and said, I met this guy, Barack somebody. And I said, he's going to want us to do a fundraiser. And she said, no. I said, yes, he is. I said, but what the hell? He's not going anyplace. Let's just do it. So we did the fundraiser at the house, and he left with $100,000. And at that time, Hillary was going to mop him up. That type of involvement. When we wanted to change the politics at Columbus City Council, Cindy Lazarus was president of City Council, had $450,000 in her kitty. We met at our house. We made the decision there was going to be a change because this person wasn't for us. This town woke up and boom, it had happened. That's the sort of legacy I think, if the stories would be told, that we made a difference in this city. We cared about our people, we cared about the community, we cared about the politics up until a few years ago. And excluding Shayla's race.
Very good. Couple quick questions. I see Rayshawn. I see Luke. We'll take these two.
Appreciate it. First of all, thank you all so much. This is always an incredible conversation. So thank you for your honesty and transparency. So one of the quotes that we had during Audra's conversation this morning was about becoming versus being, right? And that this idea of becoming is greater than just being. So if you were to look at the next 20 years for AALA, and you look at where we're at today, what needs to happen? What in your minds, what do you see? How do we take this from here and not just be, right? How do we take this and become even more with AALA here in Columbus?
I always hunt back to the individuals in the room because, you can create a group thing and go with a group thing. But what if everyone in this room tried to see just how good they could be? And sometimes you may want to do that together. Okay, but just individually, every single day. And if that wears on you, just do it once a month. I mean, but continuing to see just how good you can be in the spaces you are and keeping your head up and looking around, I hesitate to try to create like a master vision for the entire organization because I think we are the sum of our parts. And so I'm real focused on what can each part do, and maximizing that. And so I'm not trying to avoid to answer the question, but I just don't have a good answer because I think the juice is in what you do and you figure out individually. All right, 22, don't get all giddy over the juice, okay?
I want to add on that. I think you hit the nail on the head. It is about all of you were selected because the board saw leadership potential in you. And I want to echo what Donna said, is that you need to go out every day and commit to being excellent, that you are leading in the spaces where you are, not waiting. I have so many people say to me like, well, y'all didn't prepare us or prepare the next generation. Nobody on this stage asked for permission. We just went out and did it. And so you've got to be willing to lead every day with fearlessness and with excellence. You've heard Larry refer to Jerry Hammond. He was my favorite because Jerry Hammond was unapologetically black, and if you came for him, he was gonna get you. I mean, he led at a time where black men were not in positions in this community. He was the president of Columbus City Council. He used to call Buck Reinhardt every time he saw him, that little short motherfucker. And he was the mayor of the city. And he never called Buck Reinhardt mayor. He'd be like, there go that short little motherfucker. And the dispatch would try to come for Larry. The Titans would, or for Jerry, the Titans would try to come for Jerry. But Jerry was unapologetically black. He knew who he was. He was gonna lead in the way that he thought was best, and whoever didn't like it could get out of the way or try to take him out. Each of you are in positions of leadership. You have got to lead with that kind of fierceness, that kind of boldness, and be willing to take the arrows that are going to come at you, because it's not going to be easy. But what I hope this group will see 20 years from now is that all of you are in exceptional places, that you are doing things for those who have least in our community and advancing black people in Central Ohio. That's what I hope.
You know, one of the things, and I hope we've set an example for you. I hope this organization has set an example for you. I started out in Cleveland under George Forbes. I worked at City Hall for those years, and I remember the Cleveland Clinic executive, they would shake when they would come to City Hall because George made Jerry look like a saint.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the thing that because I think it's connections. So if we can lock arms and hold hands and lift each other up, pull us across the finish line, that's what I would like to see. You've got it. You're going to happen. You all have a hell of a lot more talent than we had. Trust me on that.
Amen.
You're schooled better. You're trained better. The obstacles aren't as great. I mean, look at this room. I mean, we might have had 10.
Right. That's right.
We might have had 10. You all got it made in spades. Just exercise it. Trust each other. Help each other. And help make some money for each other.
Yeah.
Good evening. There was a group of us, about 4 or 5 men earlier today. After the all men session that we had, we were talking about mentorship. And not only were we talking about mentorship, all 4 of us had said that we had mentored someone at some point, but all four of us had said that we had never had a mentor. My question and comment is kind of twofold. Number one, if you could talk about who your mentors were, and then two, what is the state of mentorship for Black men? Because the conversations that I'm having is many of us have not had mentorships, particularly from Black men. We've had Black women that have supported us in a variety of different ways, but Black men have not stepped up and been mentorships and served as mentors. So I would like to know who were your mentors, along your journey, and the state of mentorship for Black men. And my comment is, along with that, one of you mentioned earlier about having people in your circle or having people that will call you on your ship. And I got to give Ms. Brown her props, because I remember years ago, she told me, she said, people, and especially me, I'm not going to continue to put my name on the line if you continue to do dumb shit. Figure it out and get yourself together. Those were her exact words. And I want to tell you, Ms. Brown, I will never forget that, to have someone like Ms. Brown of influence tell me and say, you need to get it together. But who are your mentors, and what is the state of mentorship for Black men?
I'm going to jump in on that one. My lifelong mentor was here earlier today, Alex Shoemate. I met Alex in 1977 when I was clerking in the Attorney General's office, and he has been my professional mentor for my entire life. I have never made a career move without talking to Alex. And the advice that he gave earlier today resonated with me. If you remember, he says thinking about your responsibility is to be the very best. And you were hired to do a job, do it. And that has resonated, with me. I am going to make a comment about the lack of mentors for Black men. And I feel that I can do it because several of you have come to me and you've said to me, I can't find Black men of your generation, of your whatever, who will take the time. I remember being in a room, it's been a few years ago. Robert E. Lee is here somewhere. And we were in a room that included some older heads and some younger folks. And he called, he put one of our Black male leaders on the carpet that night. He said, when we call you, you don't respond. He says, you will not give us the time of day. And Robert put me in somewhat of an embarrassing position because he says, that woman will call you back within 24 hours. She will assess not the severity, but how quickly you need to meet or talk. If you need to do it right away, she'll make the time, or she'll say, can we do it later? And I'm not sure how much of that has changed. I haven't been a part of those conversations. Another dear friend of ours, Fred Rancière, said to me one day, he said, we were at the gym. He says, Janet, I had dinner with your sons last night. I said, excuse me, I have one son. And I know he wasn't hanging out with you. He was talking about men who were in this room tonight. He says, because they just want to sit and talk. They want to ask questions. They want to get guidance. And so I don't want to say I'm harsh, but to my male peers of my age group and a little younger, and I'm not including Larry, from my perspective, they've not stepped up to take on the role of mentorship. And you want it. Yep. You've asked for it, but you don't get it. Now, that's my perspective, Bo.
Good. Appreciate it. Other mentors. Go ahead, Larry.
Go ahead, Don.
No, the whole notion of mentorship is one that I take a different kind of perspective on. my mentors never know they're my mentors. I don't ask them, and you guys know me on this one, hey, will you mentor me? And as I've said to you, don't come to me and say, hey, will you mentor me? Because I will run the other way. But I am more than willing to have a conversation with you about issues and opportunities and what you're thinking and what I'm thinking. And if we need to have multiple conversations, we don't need to set them up a year in advance. Keep it, for me, I like the fluidity of having an issue that you want to bring to the table that we can discuss. And because of that, my mentors have been all colors, shapes, and sizes, because my situations change. And I get to switch up. And I get to learn from very different people from different perspectives. Diamond McPherson was a mentor of mine. Yvette is a mentor of mine. Susan Tomasky, Steve Davis, God rest his soul, a mentor of mine. I mean, it's going to shift. Look for them, call them up. Most people will give you 15 minutes, or you may be 6 degrees of separation from someone who will give you 15 minutes. It may take a little longer, because if you're looking for, an African-American male who might be busy, persist. But have an agenda, and don't say, hey, when can we do this again? Just call them up the next time you need to have that conversation. It's an art and a science, mentoring. Allow it to be fluid if it needs to be fluid.
So my mentors were Warren Tyler, and Warren taught me a lot of things. He taught me that situation that whenever you have a chance to help black folks, you help them. That's number one. Jerry Hammond was that same way. George Forbes, I learned. George is the reason I left Cleveland when the recall happened, and he and Dennis Kucinich, because I was in the Kucinich cabinet, and he said, I spare no one. Now, I ended up going back supporting George when he ran for mayor and lost, and Mike White won. Buck Reinhardt and Jerry Hammond hated each other. I was Buck Reinhardt's safety director. Jerry Hammond was the best man in my wedding. So this is why we have the African American Leadership Academy, to have sustained intervention. I know the folks that I'm close to in here, and I've always worked with them. I've always been close to them, and I've always offered advice even when they didn't want it. Luke and I are looking forward to this sustained relationship because he's going to be my law partner. I'm excited about that. This thing about mentorship and the lack thereof, get your butt. It's up to you. Andy Douglas, who was on the Supreme Court, I ended up firing before he died. He taught me everything I needed to know about law, and he was a certified prick. And I always ask, what are you capable of dealing with? Because our mentors, as Yvette said, man, you better bring your game. Because if you didn't bring your A game, you weren't re-invited. But look, don't wait for it to come to you. When I went to Crabb, Brown, and James, the question that one of the partners said, we don't need any nigger business. And I said, I'm not looking for any nigger business. So look, folks, this is 2025. Get your shit together. I'm sorry.
We'll put in the chat. I was gonna say we'll put in the chat where you can get prick certification. But you had comments around mentorship.
Yeah, my mentors have been many, and one was Janet. She hired me right out of law school, and like I said earlier, she was my mentor. She could be mean, but she spoke truth, and she was the one who told me, you probably don't remember this, when I was a brand new lawyer, she said, I had an obligation to be involved in my community. I could just not go to work and go home. I need to find something to get involved in. And that was when I first got involved with nonprofits. I started doing some volunteer work for United Way, and then got on the board of Friends of the Homeless. And then later in my career, I remember when Larry wanted to make me a federal judge, and I was like, I don't want to be a federal judge, but I was scared to tell him that I didn't want to be a federal judge. Because he had brought together all these people on a Saturday, and they were doing research, and I called him the next week, and I said, I don't really think I want to be a federal judge. But Larry has been that person who has always been there. When I ran for office, like, he got me the FOP endorsement when I was running against a former cop. And so Larry's the one who will, like Janet, he'll speak truth to you even when you don't want to hear it, but he's always there, ride or die. That brother will be in your corner. Donna's the same way. She is my mentor. So many times she has helped me work through some situations that I just didn't understand, and she got me through them, and I'm better for it. And then Alex has been there as I joined Big Law, coming into Big Law later in life. He really helped me navigate some of the potential pitfalls there. And I know there are people in this room who would say, Alex never makes time for us. Alex, you can't get him on the phone or anything. And I told him not long ago, I said, I understand what you mean. You know, time is money, and people call you, they want to have lunch. That's an hour and a half out of your day. So now I tell people, if you call me and you want to have lunch, I'll be like, can we do a 15-minute Zoom? Because I bill my time in 15-minute increments. And unless we are going to meet for a drink after work, it's easier for us to just talk virtually, get it done, and keep it moving. So a lot of different people in my life have helped me get to this place, but they've all remained my friends and my confidants and my supporters.
Yeah, I love it. Well, folks, obviously we could be here all night, but I'll just say to all of you, first of all, when I call, you all pick up the phone and you respond, so thank you for that. But as you know, as we move into this 20th year, you probably don't see the impact you have on this room collectively and individually. But we talk about it, and we talk about who you are to this community and what you have meant to just being the example that many of us can look to in all kinds of fields of endeavor, and what you have been able to do and the respect you have garnered, which gives us hope for all the days ahead for us. So for everything you've done, including the early work to lay the foundation for this academy, we are honored to be a part of your legacy. Let's thank Yvette McGee-Brown, Janet Jackson, and Donna and Larry James. All right. Just a few things, housekeeping as we get ready to close. I do want to make sure we get a photo of the room, so we'll seek for that, and I will come forward in just a moment. Want to draw your attention, out by the, where we were selling the merch, there is a Life by Design banner, and it's really designed for you to write on. It says, how am I living my life by design? And so we'd love for you to add your comments either today or tomorrow morning to that banner as you leave. There are two individuals in the room we need to recognize because they are or have retired from our board. They were class representatives, and I want to make sure we had a chance to recognize them formally, just with a small token of our appreciation. But if Kanika Glover and Kiana Stewart would come forward, they have completed their service.
And if I can add, just take a personal privilege here, Kanika now works at the Center for Healthy Families.
Thank you for your service and on the advisory board. They're not going anywhere. They've agreed to stay on our committee, so they're going to continue to work in the academy to move our work forward. So thank you to both of you. Larry already mentioned, but I will draw your attention back to take the card with you. Scan the QR code now, but we are trying to get every dollar out of Larry James' pocket. So he is matching all the gifts. And so all of us who have not already done a donation annually, it's January. We want you to be including us in your giving plan for the year. There are big plans. We've got a lot of momentum in the Academy, as I talked about on yesterday morning, and we need your support financially in addition to your well wishes and your presence. So make sure you take that with you as well.
Just a point of clarification on that. Are we paying now or pledging to pay at some point this year, or both?
It can be both. If you click the link, it will go directly to a given link. We do have a pledge form we can get out to folks so we can get a sense of what folks are willing to give. And of course, you can still do it the United Way payroll reduction if you're doing it that way. And even if you do it on the app, you can ask to be it to be a recurring payment if you want to do it that way. So I would err for the technology because it keeps us out of it. And this particular link goes directly to our account at United Way, so we know we can track the dollars that way much easier. So I really would encourage you to do it this way, even if it is a recurring gift and you want to give it on your credit card or something as a recurring payment. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Dawn, for the question. The leads own about 12 companies. Y'all be all right. Yeah, they'll be all right. Nobody's believing that. Yvette said you can write it now. That's absolutely right. Just want to let you know, as we close tonight, many of you will probably linger around the bar. The hospitality suites will be reopening tonight, probably about 9. My daughter's up there getting ready. So we'll say about 9:30, they will reopen, have those ready. Those are rooms 265 and 277. So if you want to stop by, have a cocktail, hang out for a bit, those two rooms will be 265, 277 will be open again this evening. What else am I supposed to say? Photo. Tomorrow morning, we are still on. I know there's weather coming. The weather is supposed to be tomorrow afternoon. I looked at the news right before I got down here. So you should be well home before that. Please stick around for tomorrow. Dynamic panel in the morning around where do we go from here. Prosecutor Favor, Mr. Shilton, Ms. Isom, and Danielle with the Rise Together Innovation Institute will all be with us in the morning. There's a round of workshops where after that we'll do a quick closing and we'll get you out of here by noon. So I look forward to seeing all of you in the morning. Let me say, Grace, are you in the room? Grace Hunter? Listen. Rhema is, my company's good, and we can execute on most things, but when we do something with this kind of volume and your kind of personalities, we need a professional. And Grace Hunter and Paraclete Planning, which I'm just proud of because we watched Grace build the vision for this company in the Academy while she was going through. And now, every big event in town, she is executing. So thank you, Grace. That's a real easy one. So if you're doing your events for your organizations, your nonprofits, make sure you're reaching out to Grace and Paraclete Planning to engage with them. They do a fantastic job working with true professionals. Grace is a top-notch supporter of the Academy, but she's a top-notch professional, and I want to make sure you do that. With that said, one of the things we're going to be looking to launch this year is a strategic alliance partner program for the Academy. And what that will mean is many of you sit in spaces professionally where we're not going to be endorsing, but we do want to make available the information so that you can actually connect to the businesses and the services that are already provided for within the Academy community. It happens informally now, but we're going to formalize that to an extent. And so companies like Grace and mine and Dawn and all the other folks who have companies that you can support through your dollars, we would appreciate you looking at the AALA list first as you think about procuring those services. So that is coming down the pike this year. All right, so we'll do the photo at the end. I had down 2 closing comments, both from our chair. We'll end with Bo. Mr. James or Ms. James, any closing comments from you? Then we'll turn it over to our chair, Mr. Shilton.
I would say, first of all, I love black folks. You know, someone, and I said this in my firm, and I said this today in a group, they said, you know, how are you built the way you're built? I said, when you're born black and poor, you can't forget. It stays with you. You can't leave anyone behind. And I think the importance of all of this is that we are there for each other. I may not necessarily be there for you, but there's somebody here who is. Take advantage of that. I am so proud of where this organization's gotten to. So, Audra, Bo, Mo, Yvette for past chair, Janet, obviously Donna. And for you all who think I am one mean SOB, I'm married to this woman for 35 years and you love her. So I have some gentle credibility.
Because Donna is kind.
Yeah.
I think he still thinks that's going to get him into heaven, but I'm trying to tell him it's not how it works.
It's a package deal. That's right. That's right. Bo?
Boy, what can I say? I am filled with joy, and this has been such a blessing. I hope that you came empty and now have rejuvenated and filled your cup and you're ready to go out. The one thing that I will say that I've always challenged Donna a little bit on, a different perspective, is when you come through the academy, you are the project. We want you to focus on finding your leadership voice and then going out and paying it forward. And that is my challenge. And this is what I've always pushed for. Now that we've invested in you, pay it forward. That means us coming together in new ways. One of the other things I've always tried to push, we got to engage our alumni. Yes, we are focused on the fellows as they go through, but there is so much power in this alumni. And so finally, we are looking to fund a position for an alumni engagement coordinator who will help organize us. And we want to see you participate. We have subcommittees and there is work to be done. We want to engage the alumni so that we can pay it forward to others and create a ripple effect. Furthermore, I would love to see us continue to build upon. We have, and please stand up and be recognized, Elizabeth and Jamila from Tulsa and from Charlotte who are here with us. We are building this beyond just Central Ohio. And so the legacy 20 years from now, we can't even imagine what that's going to be, but let's be committed to the work. And let me give a shout out to my fellow class member from Class 4, Peggy Simmons. When we talk about using your power, understand that it was Peggy who was a class fellow in Class 4 with me, the fine fly and fascinating four. And when she became president of an AAP company in Tulsa, Oklahoma, she brought the academy to Tulsa. That's using your power. And so I just say to everybody, let's continue to use our power. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take this photo, but I certainly would be remiss. I know my team at Rhema is around here, but we do this work every day, but it does not go unnoticed that we have to sacrifice a lot to support the academy. So to my team at Rhema, please thank them as well for all you saw this weekend. All right.